planning your funeral.
That excursion, arranging your burial service, Nicki Minaj's better half Kenneth Unimportant, put on house capture subsequent to undermining CB's significant other Offset. That is precisely I ought to pull up in something insane at the present time. And we've sitting around there looking at sending a fire emotional. So it seems to be the most recent show between Nicki Minaj and Cardi B is getting serious in light of the fact that Nicki's better half got put on house capture for undermining Offset. And presently Nicki is blaming Cardi for prompting the entire show for clout. After her significant other was placed on house capture, Nicki went on Instagram, attempting to energize her fans to smack a survivor of her decision, since she evidently accepts that Cardi coordinated the smacking trick back in June, when somebody called kid administrations and erroneously detailed that Nicki's child was being abused. Nicki Minaj is the casualty of two smacking endeavors at her Los Angeles home and supposedly needs to figure out who is answerable for it. So Nicki is presently utilizing what is happening to pursue her retribution on Cardi and Offset. And she likewise blamed Cardi for calling the police, since her new tune Flow Anyway Cardi has now terminated back, uncovering that she and Offset didn't report Kenneth for compromising them, and it was truly Kenneth's post-trial supervisor who put him on house capture in the wake of watching his IG live. At the end of the day, Kenneth squealed on himself, and Cardi is blaming Nicki for contorting the account to make herself appear as though a casualty charm. There's a ton to unload here, so we should separate it all. She posted this video, and the melody is one of her tunes, and it expresses something of something I wedded. On the off chance that I advise them to pull up, they going, you know, Puman do it. She advised them to do so. The quarrel between Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, and their spouses Kenneth Trivial and Offset has raised by and by, and Nicki's better half currently needs to went through 120 days on house capture for compromising Offset. The dramatization began at the VMAs last week, when Kenneth and his team shot themselves outside Offset's inn, provoking him to come external. Now one of Kenneth's companions asserted that Offset doomed him, first requesting their area anyway. It was subsequently uncovered that counterbalanced just him. This man on the grounds that Kenneth's companion had been labeling Cardi in compromising posts for a considerable length of time, paving the way to the VMA. So Offset doomed Kenneth's partner, ridiculing him for engaging in ladies' business and getting some information about their area. And accordingly Kenneth's companion provoked Offset to stand up to him and hinted that Offset was a defeatist for not looking for vengeance against individuals liable for Takeoff's death. Regardless, it's not satisfactory, assuming that there was any squabble in the background of the mass. Anyway, Kenneth and his gathering went on Instagram, live hanging tight for Offset in the city, and apparently preparing to hop in that entire game. Can draw a dick off the set. Don't make us put you off the set, you frightened kid, you terrified kid. At one point, Kenneth straightforwardly compromises Offset, letting him know he will plan for his burial service soon. You arranging your burial service now. It truly can't be explained with basic logic how Kenneth thought this was smart, since this man is in a real sense waiting on the post-trial process originating from his conviction. In July 2022, Kenneth got a 1-year home control sentence alongside 3 years of probation and a $55,000 fine because of his inability to enroll as a wrongdoer in California. Kenneth had recently acknowledged a supplication bargain and admitted to not refreshing his enlistment when he moved from New York to California. Subsequent to wedding Nicki in 2019, Kenneth's status as wrongdoer traces all the way back to a 1994 case, wherein he was sentenced for the endeavored paper on Jennifer Hugh and carried out a jail punishment of over 4 years. So at any rate, given that Kenneth and his partners live-streamed the whole occurrence, and Ken straightforwardly undermined Offset on camera, the police didn't actually have to do a lot, and Kenneth's post-trial supervisor promptly educated the court about Ken's, and only 1 day after the video of Kenneth conveying intimidations to counterbalance, circulated around the web. A government judge in Los Angeles forced a house capture sentence on Kenneth, according to a court request got by drifter Kenneth, needs to finish 120 days of house capture for disregarding the states of his 3-year probation. As per the court, records Kenneth's post-trial agent revealed him since he was recorded offering undermining comments towards a particular person while in the organization of somebody with a crook record. The court documenting further expresses that Mr. Negligible's post-trial agent accepts position in the neighborhood Asian observing system will successfully consider nearer checking of Mr. Frivolous exercises, limit his developments given authorization to his resistance, and ideally urge him to ponder and re-examine his ongoing status locally anyway. Nicki is presently discharging back at fans hauling her and her significant other, and she's faulting Cardi and Offset for impelling the whole thing. Yet that is not at you all. Nicki likewise endeavored to mobilize her fan base to arrange a smacking episode against an individual she chooses so to provide you with a bit of foundation on this had recently been designated in a smacking fabrication. And she obviously accepts that Cardi was some way or another engaged with this occurrence back in June. An unidentified individual made a misleading report to kid administrations, asserting that Nicki's child was being abused, and that Nicki's occupant was a Blaze policing later let TMZ know that sheriff's representatives answered Nicki's home, and in the wake of talking with Nicki and her significant other and evaluating the prosperity of their kid, they presumed that no wrongdoing had happened and the charges of abuse were bogus. So after news broke that Kenneth has been put on house capture, Nicki shared a story on Instagram saying Thorns tomorrow. I'ma tell you all who to smack, since smacking a home with a child isn't a crime. We should go hashtag safeguard people of color in some cases. And afterward in another story, Nicki suggested that Cardi was the person who called a comp since she's manned her most recent single bongos with Megan. The steed was a failure. Nicki composed, can't call the police. Each time you flop saying, anyway, fans rush to get down on Nicki for utilizing the safeguard people of color hashtag. And they blame her for being a deceiver on the grounds that Kenneth's casualty recently uncovered Nicki for sending road thugs to scare her and offering cash in return for her quiet on Kenneth's case. Kenneth's casualty guaranteed she was reached by Nicki's partner, who offered her $20,000 to compose a letter saying that she lied about Kenneth, attempting her. This common individual offered me $20,000 to compose a letter expressing that I lied about what I did. I lied about Kenny. And since she would not take the cash, the lady said, she began getting undermining calls from Nicki's hooligans. And they were even purportedly reaching her relatives and moving toward her kids en route to school. I have moved since spring. I have moved multiple times because of individuals moving toward my kids. Now to the extent that Barbie and Offset, it appears as though they weren't excessively annoyed by Kenneth's aggressive messages, and Offset answered Kenneth by sharing a video of himself getting off a personal luxury plane and taunting Nicki's better half and his group for being destitute and ridiculous. What you anyway. The thing upset Cardi was perceiving the way in which Nicki attempted to fault her, and Offset for getting Kenneth put on house capture. See, neither Cardi nor Offset recorded Can for anything. And this was subsequently affirmed by legitimate undertakings writer Megan Sith, who previously let the cat out of the bag that Kenneth was placed on house capture for undermining Offset. Sith posted a tweet that read, likewise remarkable post-trial agent and judge didn't require an external report SL protest to follow up on this. Offset and Card didn't appear to think off, and Offset lulled about it in a video as he strolled off a fly, I think, while going to express hello to Diane Sanders at the Colorado game. And afterward, one of Card's fans answered, saying thank you, since they're certainly attempting to flip the story like this man didn't do what he did on Instagram, and label each blog in it, be distraught at him and his companions. That is when Cardi chose to end what is going on. And she answered to the fan's tweet saying precisely keep me. And my man's out you all thing mouth. And keeping in mind what is going on has certainly partitioned the web with spikes and body pack, going bickering furiously, the vast majority who have a place with neither one of the camps are saying Nicki has nobody to fault except for herself, since she wedded somebody who fails to help her yet continues to humiliate her one Twitter client, remarked on the video of Kenneth undermining Offset saying thanking Cardi, and Offset squealed when the whole world saw this, and the number to report this to his post-trial supervisor additionally circulated around the web online. Simply take the L and acknowledge that Nicki's